There is always a local hunter that seems to always get it done year after year. They tend to use up the majority of their PTO during the month of November. They usually spend more time sitting in a tree than they do at home during the rut. During this time, their Little Debbie, Red Bull, and jerky consumption quadruples for the year. When success hits, you'll find their picture on Facebook stating Sweet November. Welcome to our podcast series called Local Legends. In today's episode, we're going to hear how a local legend repeatedly finds success and the story of their harvest. Now here's your host, Taylor Smith and Gunnar Womack.
It's Thursday morning. You guys know what that means. Another Outdoor Defiance podcast episode. Before I get into on who is on episode 48, I want to tell you guys about our great sponsors. Our first sponsor is Jag Calls. I know you guys have heard us talk about them in the past. They're going, why do I need a turkey call this time of season? It's almost deer season. Well, they also have grunt tubes. So while you're there picking up your grunt tube, go ahead and pick you up a couple extra mouth calls so you can practice and be ready for this next turkey season. Jag calls are some of the most realistic calls we have ever used, and they are the reason why we are successful in the turkey woods. Our other sponsor is Grit Knives. Before you guys head up to the mountains in September, we're chasing whitetails in the start of October, check Grit Knives out. Affordable and quality is what Grit Knives is about. I personally own 3 of their knives and love every single one of them. If you guys don't know which one to get, check out the Hunter Scalpel if it's in stock because it's a hot item, because that is my all-time favorite for anything I do in the hunting side. For episode 48, we have Dallas Burke from Kansas. Dallas Burke punched his Kansas tag last year with a 255-inch giant. I get 2 tags here in Oklahoma, and if I shot 2 deer that combined to be 255 inches, I'd be having a heck of a year. But Dallas did this with 1 deer. In this episode, Dallas talks about headed down to the Boone and Crocket convention to receive an award. And I want to tell you guys, he did go down there. This is posted a week afterwards. He came home with 2nd place on the non-typical side whitetails in North America. And I think that was a span over the last 3 or 5 years on the biggest whitetail. So congratulations, Dallas Burke. That deer is phenomenal. And this is exactly why we did this podcast, to talk about that deer. I know you guys are going to sit here and listen to the big deer story, but I want you guys to pay attention to the small details Dallas talks about. Talking about putting his blind angled where the sun doesn't come in. Talking about diving in deep to see what winds the deer were coming in from and what made him come in, all the way down to the fine details of how he brushed in his blind. So there's more to this podcast than just a 255-inch freak. I hope you guys enjoy. Make sure you pay attention. And most importantly, go tag you a big one this season. Here's episode 48 with Dallas Burke. All right, Dallas, thank you for joining me tonight. Kind of staying up late so we can get this done. I think this episode's going to be great. We're going to talk about the deer that if people don't know who you are, they're going to know who you are in this podcast. They should, because the deer has been everywhere.
Yeah.
But before we jump to about him, let's kind of go in like an introduction about yourself and how you got started outdoors.
Well, I started hunting probably just like anybody else. I feel like, your typical story, hunting with grandpa and dad and, siblings, stuff like that. So we'd hop in the truck with dad. We'd be going out hunting and go out to the farm and get out there, and we'd sit on top of the hill and look over an oak tree. And every morning they'd be eating on the acorns down there on the ground. And of course, we'd be rifle hunting at that time and always got to be quiet, or dad'd always get mad every once in a while. And then, so I kind of like started pursuing that. I started that when I was like maybe 5 or 6, whenever dad was allowed to take me out. Yeah. So we'd be out there, they'd be out there eating acorns, and we're sitting up on top of that hill. And of course, dad would always fill his doe tags, and every once in a while, if buck came on out, he'd be shooting it too with us and just get the freezer full. Got to eat. And I took that, and we did that quite a while. Then I think I was 13 when I was finally allowed to go out and rifle hunt by myself for the first time. And I set up on the side of the hill out there on the farm, and overlooked the North CRP that's leading down into the timber. And there was this, I thought this guy had like 4 points on one side, and I was like, thought it was the biggest buck I've ever seen in my life. And I shot it and I killed it. I tracked it for probably about 100 yards or so, and ran back to the house. That was quite the jaunt, but it was probably, I don't know, about a mile clear on back to the house, and got dad, and we went and picked him up. And by the time we picked him up, dad's like, gosh dang, isn't there a little ground shrinkage here? And I'm like, well, come to find out that he had a spike on his other side. And he only had 4 points on one. I was like, oh man. But I didn't care. It was first hunt by myself, and it was definitely a memory I won't ever forget. And that's I really kind of got started into it. And I didn't start bow hunting until, shoot, I don't know, probably I was 18 or 19, really. I was kind of a late bloomer on that. I didn't know much about bow hunting, and one of my buddies, he let me shoot his bow, and I just kind of fell in love with it. Like it was fun out there just shooting around, messing around, and end up getting my first bow from him. And it was Matthews. Like, I can't even remember. It was like, so it was a Matthews, so old of a Matthews, but maybe it was an FX and solo cam. It was a good shooting bow. I mean, it shoot tack drivers all day long. Like, it was passed down from friend to friend. Like, my buddy at the time, he had it and then sold it to him, and then he sold it to me for like $75. I was like, heck yeah. And then I upgraded it up throughout the years and started going along with that, and kind of started doing my own thing and doing some of my own hunting, and kind of led up to this point where, dreams come true, and I just still in almost on cloud nine about it. So I love talking about this, and it's been very passionate about it, and just an opportunity of a lifetime.
Yeah. Hopefully have another one by the I mean, man, that deer is giant. But yeah, no, hope it's not your only opportunity. I hope you can top it. But man, that deer is special.
I'm
but
not
like I
going
said,
to. Sorry,
oh, go ahead.
I'm not going to lie. I had to say that the possibility for me to shoot a bigger buck than him in the next upcoming years, I mean, that would be a lie, because there's definitely a possibility of that. I can promise you that. He's not the only one running around.
Yeah,
I find not that big, but I still find big ones. On Buckmasters, he went 255, and after Pope and Young got a hold of him on the panel score, he netted 248 on the dot, and then at Boone and Crocket, he netted 247 and 5/8. So he only had like 7 inches or so of deductions. I mean, that's pretty impressive on it when you get a buck that big, I feel like.
yeah.
That's
Gunner's 8x8 had 17 inches. So
yeah.
So that's really good. He only did like 7.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. He's just I wish I had the rack with me right now. I mean, I'd hold it up, but Boone and Crockett still has it right now. They're done with the panel scoring, but they're getting ready to do their convention here in next week, and I got to go down there for that to see where I stand on their rewards for the reward ceremony. So that's going to be.
So before we jump into him any farther, kind of talk about some of your favorite bucks. Like, I see the ones in the background, some of your favorite harvests, and definitely show your first archery harvest and tell us what year you got him.
Okay, so I'll have to. You want me to get up there and just kind of show them? Be that one right there. Yeah, that guy. Okay, so that one, that buck right there, that was my first archery kill. Sitting in the stand, and it was September. I want to say it was late September. And I was sitting in the stand. My buddy, he called me up, or he texted me, and he goes, "You seen anything?" And I said, "No." I said, "I don't know where the heck the deer are." And he goes, "Well, I'm driving around the section." He goes, "I see them. They're moving everywhere." And I said, "Well, they're not moving here." And right when I said that, I looked back up, and there he was. He was about 35 to 40 yards out in front of me, coming out of the timber, going into a bean field. and I put the phone down immediately. I'm shaking, just buck fever, and
Yeah.
I got myself calmed down enough to where I could draw my bow back, and I, well, before I ranged him at 45, by the time I was able to get to that point, he was quartering away from me, and I let that arrow fly, and I stuck it. I mean, you couldn't have more of a perfect shot when he's quartering away, all the way up into his, I mean, lungs. And wow, he took that arrow pretty. It was pretty impressive. He took it because he just stood there and it coughed, and then he walked about 5 yards a bit further away, and then he walked 10, 15 yards back to the south, and then he V-lined it straight to my stand where I was sitting, and he died right there in front of me, 5 yards.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
it took three of us to load him up on the floor.
Yeah.
He was pretty heavy. He was the oldest buck I thought on the property, so I was pretty happy about it. We were all stoked. I mean, we were all just, finally got that first bow kill underneath me, and I think I was probably 20 when that happened. So
What'd you say
it
he
was
scored?
he went 154. That's what he went.
Yeah.
So first bow kill 154, that kind of set the bar.
Yeah.
I definitely was holding out for either him or one of the other ones. I think they're pretty similar in size. I mean, I don't think the other one would have gone 160, but it had been close right there on that, in that market. So,
Yeah.
and then probably my favorite one, I think right over, yeah, you can't really see it, but would be that guy here on the corner. That big one there.
Yep.
He went 177, and that was on a property that my dad and I had permission on, and we'd go out there during rifle season, and we'd sit. We got a lot of hills, so like I know I'm gonna like probably keep referencing a hill, but the hill on the
Yeah.
property that we overlooked like this little valley that led down to a couple of the ponds, and they'd always come on out. And it was always my dad and I. We'd always go out there every year to that spot together. We wouldn't go out any other time, not without each other. Well, he decided that he thought he needed to go buy himself another tractor, and went to go pick it up that day. And I called him up and I said, "Hey, what do you think about me going out there to the spot?" And I said, "I feel like it's going to be a good night." And he goes, "Oh, I don't care." He's like, "Just go right ahead." And it was at the time, three biggest bucks of my life I've ever walked out of that timber right there. I, I shot him with the 30-30, and
Wow.
he didn't go anywhere. So the other two, I called my dad up immediately after that, and I said, "You won't believe what just happened." He goes, "Are you got to be kidding me?" I'm like, "No," I said, "I'm not. It's the biggest buck I ever shot in my whole life." I said, "I don't know if I ever shoot a bigger one, Dad."
Yeah, that one didn't have ground shrinkage.
No, there's no ground shaker. He has mass for days on that one. He's
And what
huge.
he scored?
177.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was awesome. It was. I got wound up, $3 coming out right at me. They're chasing does and stuff. It was a moment. I wish my dad was there, just so he had that memory. It sucks that he wasn't. That's kind of. But I guess that's where the cookie crumbles sometimes. And
Yeah.
went and bought that tractor, I suppose.
Yeah. The first year my dad ever dropped me off by myself, ended up shooting my first deer because every time he took a turn, he never had opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he dropped me off opening morning, and I shot my first deer, mature buck that morning, and I remember him going, "I knew I should have went with you." I told myself I should, but he went up the road with his brother, so
Yep.
yeah, I was like,
That's
"Well,
got to make those decisions, and sometimes,
yeah,
sure, and as far as I know, I have a tendency to pick the wrong spots.
yeah, yeah, I'm very good at picking the wrong spots."
Yeah, very good at picking the wrong spots. I ain't gonna lie. I got lucky, but most of the time I pick the wrong spots. I should be at somewhere else. So it's
Now what on that far right side, that funky one, what's the story on it? The skull?
Yeah, that one over here. So that one, my buddy, I was having a rough year bow hunting, and over on the properties that I had, I couldn't really. I was having a hard time just finding one that I liked, and none of them seemed that it wasn't mature and wasn't that big enough that I wanted to harvest yet. And my buddy has 2,000 acres over there west of me, and about I don't know, probably about an hour west of me. And he said, "Hey, why don't you come up here and sit in one of my stands and shoot whatever walks out?" I said, "Don't tell me that, man." I said, "I'll shoot whatever comes out." I said, "No, my luck, something big's probably going to come out." And he goes, "Oh, nah, heck, you'll be all right. Just shoot whatever you want." And it was 45 minutes to an hour before uh, sunset, and I picked out one of the stands that I always kind of liked, and he went and sat on the other side of the property, and it, I got in there about 2, and it was snowing that day. It was cold, and I was freezing. My toes were cold, and I almost got out of the stand just to, because I was like, "Gosh, it was freezing, man." It was wind was blowing a little bit, and I stayed in the stand, and it paid off. I shot him. Uh, he was at 32 yards, and he just kind of stood there broadside. He just looked like he was like looking around for a doe, and that was right before rifle season. So that was in like around Thanksgiving time frame, after Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I called him up, and he didn't believe me. He never saw the buck. He's never saw that buck before on the property. That was the thing.
Wow.
Like,
That's cool.
yeah. So I mean, it's not like it was one of his regulars. He was just cruising on by, and I would put a good shot on him. He went 50, 75 yards, give or take. I mean,
Yeah.
it was just a good, clean shot, pass through, and he didn't believe me until he got over there.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Was that with your bow?
Yeah, that was my bow. Yep. That was that was yeah, he's actually got
broke, or is it injured?
Heck, I can go get it real quick. Or here he is.
Wow.
Got a little drop tine here, and he's like, oh, just so this side way more than I thought it would. But I mean, hell, that's 15 inches of tine right here. I mean, it's huge. And then
Yeah.
I think he's really palmated out. I hardly can't tell, but
Yeah.
maybe right there, on this blade. He's just a tank. Went 173. I know I have the score sheets, but man, I love this guy. I'm glad he came. I'm just glad my buddy didn't wasn't too mad because he never saw the buck before. So
Yeah.
but it was wild. I went down there and sat in there this one afternoon, and made it happen. I was tickled pink.
Yeah.
This one, he went 183. Just basket racked, and a little flyer off his main beam here, and got a couple of flyers off back here, off the one flyer. I'd say only 1 inch there, but heavy, good Kansas buck. Had a little tine broken off there. Just a brute, man.
Yeah, that's a cool deer.
Paul. This one was a rifle kill right here. This was a opening day rifle season.
Wow.
I was having a pretty rough year that year. And rifle season came up, and it was getting cold again, and I'm like, I just better get something done. And I went out there, and
Yeah.
opening day. So for rifle, I think it falls in Kansas like around December 1st or something like that every year. First Wednesday after Thanksgiving, anyways. So yeah, he's I like how he has his like little curly cue here. See that? Like he curves pretty hard. on its I don't know if you can see that or not. It's pretty hard to show it. But that's that was my biggest buck a day right there on this 183 was the biggest buck I've shot until this the one I shot this year.
So when did you shoot the one right over your head?
The
The
183.
Yeah.
Shoot. I guess see that one. If I get him right here, that was probably 3 years ago, I think.
And then which
Or
one was your newest or your
the one directly right behind me here, that 183 was I'd have to go look on my Facebook on the dates, but so you can't quote me on this one. I think it was 3 years ago, maybe. And I think
which one was your most recent?
Would have been that one over here on my left, over my left shoulder here. That one would have been my most recent. So that would have been 23, the season of 23. However, I do that right over here. Yeah, season of 23, and then the one directly behind me, I think, was season of 22, and then one in a corner would have been 21, and then 2020. And then I think my big one over here was like 2017, I think.
Wow. You've had what? Almost 5 consecutive seasons?
Yeah. That's kind of, one of the things I kind of take a little pride and joy in. I've been able to shoot a bigger buck every year and, progress on that. I got telling myself to stop going with the flow, like what everybody else does, like if no one's shooting big bucks, then why do what they do? I'm going to go do my own thing. And a lot of people didn't like that too much just because like, oh, that's not going to work, whatever. I don't care if it works or not. I said, the only way I'm going to learn is to do it. I said, if I fail, I know not to do it again. But, there's been a lot of times, like I said, there's been a couple of hard seasons that just took me a little while to get on a buck. And sometimes that was due for me learning the hard way. I spooked a lot of deer out, and so be it. I don't get mad when that happens. That's not the only deer there.
Yeah.
So
going into the 24 season, is that when you shot one?
Yep. So on the 24 season, I was coming on my way home from my buddy's place. About to shot that previous buck on. We were out there doing some fishing, and I always cruise on by the farm and that area where I get to hunt. I'm out there every day and scouting, and figure I drive on by there, and sure enough, I look over to the left and overlooking there's bean field and then a big CRP patch on this watershed, and there was about 6 to 8 bucks out there, just humongous. And then there was him, and this was in July when I first saw him, and he was towering over them all. I locked my brakes up. I looked over at my roommate and I said, "Hey man," I said, "there he is." And he goes, "You think that's him?" I said, "There is no other deer out here as big as that guy right now." I said, "That's him." And I was like, "Man, there's no way he changed his summer beds up, because the farmer to the south found his sheds over on his dad's piece, which would have been about 2.5 miles back to the south." And I take that kind of information to say, like, all right, well, that's going to be their summer bed. They're going back to normal and getting ready for that kind of stuff. And I said, there's no way that he switched up on his summer beds and moved over here to a piece I got permission on. And so I went out every day, still cruising around, see if I couldn't find him again. And then it was August, beginning of August, when I saw him again in the same exact spot. Same exact spot, same time. I mean, to a T. And I was like, this is it. Like he moved over here. This is his summer bed. I said I got to get onto him early. And so that's when that next very day I went out and put up a trail camera. I just put up a regular, just a Browning trail camera. I had all my cell cameras that I run elsewhere tied up, and I couldn't have a chance to go get them just yet. So I put Browning trail camera up, and I checked it after a week, and sure enough, man, first picture, boom, there he was in full velvet. And I mean, I was speechless for about 2.5 hours or so. I showed my roommate, and he was speechless. He didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to say. And we just went, wow. And we just kept staring at the picture. And I finally said, I finally broke the silence pretty much. And I said, man, I ain't gonna lie. I thought he's gonna go 232. And he goes, oh, there ain't no way he's gonna go 232. I'm like, no, he's going 232. And he goes, well, what'd you think that? I said, well, I put my hands on his rack last year. I said he went 209 because the neighbor that found the sheds, he had me on over to score him, and I need to go pick him up. But I can only go pick him up if I bring the rack over to him. Well, I haven't had the rack for quite some time because Pope and Young's had it since pretty much January, and now Boone and Crocket has it. So I'll get those sheds here shortly. I'm pretty excited for them.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So, anyways, that happened, and I was getting kind of nervous at the time because I finally switched up to my Moultrie cell camera, and the first set of pictures on that Moultrie were cattle. The landowner, he had cattle, but they're not supposed to be right there, so they were getting out. Them cattle got out for, I think, 13 days straight, and I think the landowner was in there, and at the time I figured out that's where he was bedding, was in the back CRP, right where the broken fence was at. And so that's where the cattle were getting out at, and that's where his bed were at. So the landowner drove back in there probably 5 out of those 13 days on his 4-wheeler to fix fence and end up running a hot wire all the way around. And I mean, honestly, it is what it is. It's part of it, but
Yeah.
he got spooked, and he ghosted me I never saw him again. I was freaking out. I was walking on all the properties I had around that I could possibly find them, glassing. I didn't go to work. I was trying to figure out where this guy was at.
Yeah.
Literally, I did not go into work. I was like, this is what I got to do. I got to get this buck. I said, I can take the time off. It ain't gonna matter.
Yeah.
So I took the time off, and I was scouting, trying to find him out where he went. Could never find him. And September 29th, he finally showed back up on camera in late evening. And that's kind of when everything started unfolding. And so I started planning the hunt, how I was going to get to him, because there's no trees over there on that piece, whatsoever. And there was one tree 100 yards away from me, and then one cedar tree where I had my trail camera up and my mineral pile. And then the fence, there was no trees on the side, this side of the fence, but on the other property, there was a few, a little tiny thicket with one cedar tree in it. So I decided that's where I was going to put my ground blind in, and was going to kind of figure out how I was going to make a massive ground blind grass stand, because I stuck out like a sore thumb. That was a challenge in itself. And then my second challenge that I had was my fear of shooting out of a ground blind. And I don't know what it was. I'm not claustrophobic or anything like that, but prior to that, I could never draw my bow back to a full draw. I don't know. I even have a shorter bow. I have V3 27, and it's obviously 27 inches. That I just couldn't draw it back. So I was I was panicking. What am I going to do? And so I set up both my ground blinds in the yard for give or take about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I shot about every hour on the hour. I'd take a break for an hour, But yeah, that's what I was trying to do. I'll take a break for an hour. I'd shoot for an hour. I'd take a break and I'd just get myself used to that ground blind, get my fear over that because I knew that's how it was going to have to happen. And by golly, I did. It worked.
Yeah.
I mean, so he's starting to he's I didn't get to put the ground blind out till like October 7th. I think that's what it was. So he's coming in like every other day almost. Sometimes every once in a while he would come in like every morning and evening. That was like only like 2 days for a week. He only did that, but the rest was like an every other day kind of thing. And he was really hard to pattern. Every time he showed up from a different direction. And so it really made it hard to pinpoint him where he's coming from. So I ended up putting up 4 more additional cell cams up out there with small piles of corn, just so I didn't want him to like really just move to one spot, like away from my ground blind, just because there's literally no other places for me to put it. And so I left my coated pile and in front of the original trail camera that I've had out there, and then I put those 4 other cameras with the corn out, and he would never come on by. And these were on major trails, and they just wouldn't. He just would never come on by there. And I put like different types of attractants stuff down and that, and he wouldn't come over there either. I mean, he was pretty dead set on where he was going, and it was my coated pile. And the reason why I figured that up is because I finally sat down one night and I said, I have got to get this buck pattern. I think it was October 7th when I put out my ground blind. I was like, this is time because he's getting close to shooting light in the mornings. And I think he was there at 6:30 and left at 6:50 October 7th. So it was like 10 minutes before shooting light. And that's why I went out and put that ground blind up that day. So that evening, I hunted, and then I came back and was trying to get this guy patterned, and I ended up making an Excel worksheet, and it states the buck's name, the dates, like all 365 days of the year. I mean, it has every single date on there, and then it'll have the moon phase, dusk and dawn, you name it. If the wind direction, the pressure, there's like 15 different variables that I put in here to see if I cannot get a common factor somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
And like the times he came in like that, the times he left and the directions he left in or directions he came in on. And I went all out trying to get this buck pattern. And the only thing that I could figure out was every single time he came in front of that camera, there was a couple of pictures. You could see him pretty far off in the background and he'd be heading in the opposite direction. Like he was not going to be coming in here. But the wind would be blowing in the direction that he was going in, and he would smell my coated pile, and he'd V-line it straight back to my coated pile and just start munching on it. I mean, he loved it. He couldn't get enough of that. And each time he'd come on in, he'd eat on that pile, and he'd go up and hit that mock scrape that I made with I use a company called 601 Outdoor Sense. I'm a sales rep for him. Owner's name's Barry Skidmore. He's a heck of a guy, and he makes some pretty good products. I ain't gonna lie. And I using black tie fair on that mock scrape. And every single time he get done eating, he just walk up to that black tie fair and hit that little cedar tree branch and hit the ground and make that scrape and go on. But he'd always hit it. So I knew kind of the directions of what I had to guess was he was coming in. He was walking with the wind, I guess, every single time, which was kind of weird to me. And it was October 18th morning when I went out, and I got in the ground blind probably an hour and a half or so before shooting light, and it was pretty quiet, pretty much no wind until the sun started coming up and it started going. It wasn't heavy by no means. It was like 5 miles an hour, maybe. It's pretty variable. And the does came on in, and the does usually stick around for about 45 minutes. Those were in there and they were gone in a matter of 3 to 5 minutes tops. And I said, this is odd. I said, something's up, man. And I was sitting here looking around, trying to figure out what buck's coming, where they at. I can't see a dang thing yet. And the sun just started breaking the 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 hillside there. So all I could see was shadows of the outlines of the bucks. And here they came up over the hill from the watershed from their bed. And they were in line with that one tree that I was talking about earlier, just right in line with that tree. And all you could see between this hedge tree branch with this V was just rack. I mean, he just put his head down. I couldn't tell if he was making a scrape on that hedge tree, but all I could see was the rack. And I instantly knew, and I was, oh my gosh, this is going down. This is actually happening right now. Like, we're 10 minutes before shooting light, and there he is, I don't know, 30, 40 yards away from me. And he stood behind there for about 5 minutes or so, just kind of mingling around. And then he finally came out, and he was at like 20, 25 yards. And he was quartering to me. So I didn't really have that good of a shot, and I didn't want to make that shot like that anyways. That's kind of a dangerous shot to make. And
Yeah.
And just from the footage, I just knew he was going to stick around for a little while. And he just stood there, though. That was the crazy thing. He stood there and he like stared right at me in that ground blind. He didn't see me, obviously, but he didn't come into that pile that morning until he turned around and he walked back to the west behind my trail camera. So he never came out in front of my trail camera. And he walked to the west. And at this time, I'm full blown out panic because now he's walking to the direction of my scent. And he stops right in line with my ground blind 12 yards away from me. And he just stops. Like, his nose would have been like right touching my ground blind, but he stopped 12 yards away from me. Like, holy smokes. I don't know what's going on right now. I'm like, there's no way. He's totally sitting me right now. And the only way I can possibly think why he didn't sit me that day was, it may sound crazy, but man, I use that 601 Outdoor Sense, and we sell that Silent Stalker. That's the bee's knees right there, man. That stuff worked 110% of the time. I can promise you. I've done tested on that. I smoked a cigarette before I walk out to the ground blind. Not that day, but to a tree stand. I hunted the wrong wind, smoked a cigarette on purpose, sprayed myself with a Silent Stalker, and I walked to the tree stand, and I had all my deer literally walk out in front of me in my scent, and not a single one blew, nothing, all day.
Wow.
It's pretty neat. But that's the only way I can explain that, because I ain't gonna lie, my scent was blowing straight to him. And he didn't get spooked, but he stopped. I don't know if he thought something was up a little bit when he maybe smelled me or something, but not enough to get spooked anyways. So he stopped and he turned back around, and he's coming back around my trail camera and the CRP where that cedar tree's at. And I knew that where he was coming, because he was like kind of walking like in a half moon shape. I said, he's going to round this cedar tree and he's going to come into my coated pile. And at that point in time, he got behind that cedar tree, and I went full draw. And he came out, and he didn't stop. He went straight to the pile. But what he did, he was, right in line with me. I had no shot besides his front portion of him. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I'm still at a full draw. It's like, there's no wind blowing. I said, how the heck am I going to get out of my full draw here, And I'm like, this is not going to be good. Like, he's definitely going to hear me, because he's only like 17 yards, maybe 15. And he's just going down, eating a coated pile, coming back up, going back down. And he did that for about 2-3 minutes. And I feel like my arm was about to fall off when it is straight up burnt right now. And the wind picked up just enough to make a little bit of noise. And he turned his head back to the north, like he had heard something over there. I said, this is my chance. And I got let down, and he didn't hear me. And so at that point in time, he decided that he was done eating, and he had turned broadside to me, but he had his front leg tucked in. So I'm like, he had his front right leg. So he's facing north and I'm facing east. So his front right leg is extended all the way out and his left leg is tucked in. So he's obviously covering everything up. And when he did that, I went full draw again. I had like 30, 45-second break in between. And I just told myself, stay calm. I said, you already went full draw once, man. I said, this is going to be easy. And I got a grin on my face and I went full draw. And sure enough, man, he went straight to that black tie affair and started hitting that. And once he done that, he had his left foot extended all the way out when he was making that scrape on the ground. And then he pulled up his head and was licking the branch with his leg extended out. And I said, you cannot chalk this up on the whiteboard any better than what's going on right now. I said, this buck is completely fully extended. This is it. And I let that arrow fly. And I probably closed my eyes a little bit. I ain't gonna lie. I closed the eyes when I shot, and I opened them back up to see the arrow go on through and come out the other side. Like it was a split second where I closed eyes and I heard it and I opened and the arrow went out on the other side of it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I just did it. I just shot the biggest buck of my life. And I am hysterically freaking out at this point. What do I do? I called up my roommate and told him the buck's not even done running yet. I'm already on the phone saying I done it. And he goes, is he dead? And I said, no, not yet. He's running up over the hill. I can't. He just crested the hill. I said, he's going back to his bed. But I said, but I got a good clean shot on him. And he goes, okay, I'll be there after a bit. He's like, just give me some time. And he was at work already. And so I was like, all right, I'll meet you back at the house. And he's like, just get out of there. Get out of there. Don't even go look for your arrow. It's like,
Yeah.
I was like, no, I'm looking for that arrow. It wasn't hard to find. It was 5 yards behind where he was standing in the ground. And I picked it up and saw that there was very little lung blood on there. And to me, it looked like there was some chunkier stuff on the arrow. And I was like, I don't know what the heck that is. Kind of looked like liver maybe. And so it got me a little nervous. And I started looking around for the blood where I first shot him. And where I first shot him at, there was a chunk of his liver mixed with a little bit of lung blood on it. And I really got nervous. So I didn't know how good of a shot I got on him. But I said, but there was still lung blood. It was pretty bubbly. And I was like, gosh, what do I do? So I was like, I physically watched him crest over the hill, which was like, I don't know, 70, maybe 75 yards away from me. And so I was like, all right, I can at least go to that point. I know he's beyond that. And so I was looking around about from the first blood I found of him, right where I shot him, about 20 yards away, there was a pile of his guts laying on the ground, about I don't know, probably a basketball pile size of his guts just laying there on the ground. And I'm like, okay, that's not good at all. I'm like thinking, all right, why is there a pile of his guts on the ground when I have liver and lung blood? So I backed out. I went back to the house and I didn't call the roommate up. I didn't let him know what was going on. I'm freaking out, trying to figure out what I should do. And I talked myself into it to go back out and look for him. Because for starters, I had lung blood. All right. 2, name one animal or even anybody who can live without their intestines.
Yeah.
Literally. I mean, everything was hanging out on the ground already. I'm like, there's no way he's alive. You're not physically going to be alive after that. So I went back out and I think I shot him like at, I want to say 7:10, 7:13. And I went back out at like noon. And when I went back out, my buddy, one of my friends, he was driving down the road. He didn't know I had shot him yet. And he actually pulled down the waterway next to the bean field. And because he saw my truck back there. And while I was walking around and he pulled up, he goes, what are you doing? I said, well, I shot him. He goes, no, you didn't. I said, yeah, I did. I said, go over there and look at my arrow. He goes, are you serious? I said, "Oh man," I said, "I'm dead serious right now." I said, "I shot him." I said, I ain't kidding." I said, "I'm not sure where he's at." I said, "I got lung," and I said, "I got liver, and I got guts." I said, "I need your help." He got on the phone and told his boss, "I'm not coming in today. I got other things to do." That's yeah, that was Dylan Loman. He was one of my good buddies, and actually is my best friend. And he died this last. He passed away this last February, and right before his 21st birthday, like 3 days. And I got one of his work shirts on tonight to have him with me. I figured he might want to be a part of it, so that's why
Yeah.
if you guys can see or not, that does not say Dallas. That definitely says Dylan. But I figure it might be kind of fitting to have him around every once in a while. So
Yeah.
that's missed the guy. Just got in a bad car wreck. Goofy guy, I tell you what. Anyway, so I tell him, I said, I saw him go up crest the hill. I said, there's two places he went. And I said, that's either back to his bed where I thought he had went, or back into the timber, which was down behind the watershed where the runoff came off for the watershed. There was like 25 yards worth of timber width down for like a quarter mile. And he was either there in one of those two places. And I was hoping that he went down to his bed, because if he went down behind that watershed, I knew what was going to happen. He was going to probably more than likely be ate by coyotes. It's really thick, really bad in that area. I mean, there's that watershed dam is huge, and they have just, I mean, there's probably at least 30, 40 coyotes just living in that pond dam by themselves. Like I started trapping this last winter on them to thin them on down some more. But I mean, I've always called them in and stuff like that. But apparently, I'm never doing the justice, I guess. But I mean, it's bad. They're real bad. Anyways, we split up. I go down to his bed. Dylan goes over there to the behind the watershed, and I find nothing. And it wasn't 5 minutes later, he calls me up and goes, "You're going to want to come up here." I said, "Did you find blood?" He goes, "I found a lot of blood." I said, "Good. I'll be up there." And I'm saying calm right now. I can assure you, I was not calm then. I was on a dead sprint with my bow all the way over there. Like, about to die when I show up. I'm out of breath. It's just like, didn't plan on this today. And I don't know what it was like down there in Oklahoma on October 18th, but here in Kansas, it was hot.
Yeah, it was hot.
It got warm. It almost got to, I want to say it was up in the upper 80s that day. It was hot. And that was another thing that got me worried, because you got guts hanging out and the day's getting hotter. This isn't good. And he went down behind the pond dam where I knew he shouldn't have gone. So, anyways, we're sitting there tracking and come up on the old pond dam there. And there's two ways he could have gone. We lost blood. And so I stayed on top of the old pond dam and was following it. And Dylan, he had went down. And Dylan ended up finding the blood again down at the bottom. And he hollered at me, and we were like 15 yards from each other. And if Dylan would not have sit there and hollered for me, and I would have walked about 5 to 8 more yards, I would have walked up on my buck that day, right then and there. That's where he was. I was that close to him. I could never, and then I didn't see him. So, anyways, I turned around and obviously not knowing that's where he was at, and started following the blood trail again. And at this point in time, the blood trail was so significant, you don't have to look. He was bleeding out both sides, and each side was, he was leaving anywhere between a softball to a basketball size blood spots for probably 50 yards. And then it got really strange. At that point, like, he came to like a little opening, and it's like 15-foot radius. It was nothing but covered. All the trees, all the grass, all the leaves on the bushes was all completely covered in blood. 100%. It was red. I'm like, holy smokes. There's literally a hackberry tree, like a 6-7 inch hackberry tree that was not dead. It was very well alive, completely derooted, freshly derooted out of that ground where he had ran into it. So I was like, what's going on here? Like, we come up to we figured out that he got in a fight with the coyotes at that time. And that's why there was a lot of blood in that area. And because we could not find any more blood past that point. And Dylan goes, "Hey, man," he goes, "we're not too far into this. Why don't we call the dogs?" And I said, "You know what? That's not a bad idea." I said, "We're dealing with a bigger buck." I said, "I've never used the dogs before, but I said, let's give them a call and let's let's see what they can do for us." And we called them up. I called them up, and they're out of Yates Center, about 30 minutes away from me. And they got the second best tracking dog in the state of Kansas. And I'll show you some pictures and I'll send them to you. But the guy shows up at 5, and because he had work, and so this is a little side gig, and he goes, "I'm going to pull out my dog. Don't laugh at me." And I said, "Okay." And he pulled out this like miniature, just wiener dog long hair thing. I don't even know what it was. I mean, it's just cute little thing. She probably stood up about 6 inches off the ground, like little 4-inch legs, man. Second best tracking dog in the state of Kansas, certified. And I mean, I couldn't. I bust up laughing. I ain't gonna lie, I did. And I said, "Oh, she better be good, I guess." I'll let you guys. So I took them on down there to First Blood and let them do their thing. And I followed them for about the first 25-ish yards or so to make sure, they stayed on the right track to that point where we lost blood that second time. I will make sure they still stayed on that track and got past that point. And we got to that point, and the dogs turned back up towards the pond dam. Now, we all kind of scratched our heads at that time, like, why are they turning back up the pond dam? Because the blood trail was so significant that for us, it was obvious to keep the dogs on the blood trail. Deer went this way. And about in that 3 times in about that 50 or so yard stretch, them dogs turned back around to the pond dam, and we pulled them back off, and we put them back onto the blood trail. So I'm like, okay, like it's getting dark, and I'm like, I gotta start scanning. Like, I don't know where he's at. I'm paying these guys. They're doing good. Their dogs are following the blood, blah, blah, blah. I don't need to be around here messing them up. So I already have permission from the neighboring landowner to keep going onto their property and look for this buck, because, I mean, really, it's like only a 400 yard stretch of timber. And if the coyotes got to him, there's a good chance that he could probably stop bleeding enough to, while he's on a sprint or something, to get across the property line. And so that's why I told him, I said, I'm going to jump property lines, go over there, and I'm just going to start scanning. And it's getting dark, and I'm getting nervous, really nervous.
Yeah.
I have my phone on me, but it's still on silent from when I was hunting this morning. So at this time, it's dark. It's really dark, and I'm like a mile away from the road. And I start walking back, and when I start walking back, I could hear someone yelling, "What's going on?" And I get up there close enough. I'm probably, I don't know, man, about 300 yards from the road at this point, and all I hear is "Dallas, Dallas," and I'm like, "Oh, that's me." I'm on a dead sprint at this point. So "What the heck? What's going on? What's going on?" He goes, "Where is your damn phone?" I said, "I got it right here in my hand, man." And he goes, "Are you gonna check it?" And I stop, and I look at my phone, and they sent me pictures of my buck. They had found it, and oh man, I can't even begin to describe the feeling on seeing those pictures. And so I got up to the road, and I asked them. I said, "Chris, man," I said, "you guys really find my deer?" I said, "You guys didn't like Photoshop this stuff or something, like real quick, like I don't know, like this is like, don't do this to me, like this for real, like you find it." He goes, "Yeah, man." He goes, "It just so happens that like we split up, and I wanted to go check this other field up because there was a whole bunch of crows out there, and I thought something might be dead that the crows been eating on. Come to find out it was nothing." So he goes, "I went back to the pond dam where we first started." And he goes, "Yeah, I was going pee off the pond dam, and my dog, she's just sitting there. Next thing you know, she starts pointing." And he goes, "Well, what is it, girl?" And she just takes off. So he finished his business real quick and followed her on down there. And sure enough, she walked straight down to her. She got downwind of that buck and smelt him.
Yeah.
And he was like 20, 25 yards away off the top of the pond dam right there. It was crazy. and that was that dog there was like some type of lab mix, and the main dog, uh, they're both names Chris and Chris, so it's kind of weird. It's they're local tracking, so it's like like LOWCA, Loca tracking out of Yay Center, and the main dog, she actually had found the new blood trail. The buck had went up to the ridge, which was about 10, 15 yards. Looked like he had gotten in a fight with the coyotes there too, because there was fur everywhere, and actually dipped back down onto the same trail that he came in on. So that's why it was looking like he was bleeding on both sides. He literally had went down the same trail, and so he doubled back, and that's why we couldn't figure out where he went. And the dogs had figured it out. They did a dang up job, man, and I was very happy to pay him. And they said, like, I called him up. I called one of the Chris's up, and he goes, "Hey, man, what do you want to do with the deer?" I'm like, he goes, we got it loaded up already, and it's getting dark, and we know what kind of situation we got going on down here because of the coyotes. He goes, obviously, we have a whole entire eaten deer here, but the coyotes are running up the thick. I mean, heck, I shot him, like 7:10 that morning. I got back by noon, and he was all 8. So they got on him pretty quick, and I told them to get the heck out of there with their dogs. You don't need to be down there with that kind of stuff. And so we met at the road, and I got to lay my eyes on them. I shut the gates to the property. I turned back around, and man, I just was speechless for it seemed like forever and had like 15 minutes. I don't know how long it was, but it seemed like forever. And one of the Chris's comes up to me, puts his hand on my shoulder just like this, and he goes, "You going to go put your hands on it?" And I said, "Oh yeah, I better go do that, huh?" And I said, I got up there on the bed of my buddy's truck, and I said, let's get this tagged and get that out of the way. That way we're not getting in trouble or anything like that. And let's just get that knocked out, so then we can take some pictures. You're like, okay, we got it all done with the e-tag and everything, and did that, and that's when the stories started rolling out, and they wanted to know the story and how long I had. They want to see trail camera pictures, and of course I showed them. I was thankful, and I gave them a couple of bags of mineral to take home for them. They're like, "If he's eating on this, he's like, we got to get that right now." And I'm like, "Here," I said, "here's 4 bags, guys. Have 2 apiece." I said, "That'll last you a little while." And so I gave them that, and then, man, the storytelling after that, it was so perfect. I mean, everyone was just taking turns telling their best buck stories, and it was. We stayed on that side of that gravel road for probably 3.5, 4 hours that night. I never left that side of that buck. I was sitting right behind it the whole entire time, and I was sitting there just listening to all 3 of their stories.
Yeah,
just I mean, they had story after story after story, man, and it was just I don't know how to describe that. Man, it was perfect though, and it was probably one of the most happiest times of my life, just because I knew they were happy. They were happy for me. I was jacked, pumped, and I know their stories. They wasn't lying. Just their facial expressions, how they were saying it, how it was just like a pure moment in time, and it was awesome. And we shared that moment, man. We still talk about it. I call them up every once in a while, and we just stay in touch about it. It's awesome. I won't ever forget that, and just a moment I'll never forget, I guess.
Yeah.
But it was
from that night, when did social media, the world of social media?
It was probably that next day. I took a lot of pictures. I didn't post any pictures, but it was that evening because Chris, they asked me if they could put it on their Facebook page, that they had another successful recovery. And so that's how it first got out. It got finally posted around 10:30 that night, I think, on their page. And it wasn't long. It blew up. Yeah. So, I mean, I can't remember how many posts or, comments are on it or shares on their page, but it was a lot. And I said, holy smokes. And I never posted anything for a few days. And I just, I finally posted it. I think it was like 3 before I finally posted it. I wanted to make sure I was kind of happy with the score that I had. And come to find out that I don't know where I messed up at, but I came up with it was a little bit more than what I thought. I fell asleep that first night putting a tape measure on them. I ain't kidding. I was sitting in this chair right here, putting a tape measure on them, and I had the tape still in my hand when I woke up that morning. And I looked up and I said, "Oh, I didn't finish taping him out." So I better restart. So I mean, I was exhausted, man. I said I've been walking that whole entire day. I was up, early that morning and it was hot. We had been walking. I was carrying my bow the whole entire time and I didn't get home till 10:30 that night. And just from I was just wore out. Apparently I fell asleep with a tape measure in my hand. So anyways, I get them scored out, and the first number I came up with was I was not happy with. Like that was not right. I was like, there's no way that's right. I said that can't be right. So I scored him again and I was a little bit happier with that score. It was a lot lower. I don't know where I messed up the first time. And so I scored him a third time and I got the same score the third time, which granted it was 268, what I had. I think what I ended up doing was when I added up one of the tines, I think I added it twice on accident.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. The buck had 30 scoreable points. That's pretty possible to do. That's a lot of points. Yeah. So I think that's what I ended up doing because it was almost like it was like 13 inches, which was one of the G2s on his left side, I think was 13 and some change. So I think that's probably where I messed up at. But I ended up taking it up to Brad Forbes up in Junction City. He's a very nice guy. Does really good work. He has a whole setup in his house in the basement there, and puts it on an Excel worksheet for not Boone Crocket, for Buckmasters, and he scored it out. I waited to go there. I guess I don't know why, but I waited till November to take it up there to him. So it wasn't like a super green score, but he ended up getting 255 on that. And so I was pretty pleased about that one. And then I got in touch with Cameron. Gosh dang it. Cameron Cobble from North America Whitetail. He got in contact with me and he said he wanted to score the buck for Pope and Young and Boone and Crocket. And he wanted to do a story on it. And I said, okay, that's fine. So, got in contact, did the story, and he goes, December 18th is your dry time. He goes, I want to get it done December 18th. He goes, actually December 19th. He goes, I have to go one day past the 60-day mark. Or he goes, Boone and Crocket and Pope and Young will complain that there wasn't necessarily a full 60-day dry period. So you have to technically go 61 days before you have to score it. And so December 19th, he lives up in Iowa, and I met him up at Cabela's up in I call it Olathe, but it's past that. It's up there by the racetrack up in Kansas City, and it's a 2-hour drive for him. It was a 2-hour drive for me, and we met up there and finally shook hands. We had been a lot of talking, and this first thing he goes, holy smokes. He goes, this thing is just huge. And I said, it's heavy. I said, I'm getting tired of toting around. And he goes, no, you're not. And I said, no, I'm not. I think I walked into Cabela's and I spent the next 2 hours talking about the dang thing before we could even go and put a tape measure on it. And everyone was, coming and going and talking and asking me questions about it. And finally I got the chance to sit on down. We got to the conference room and put a tape on it. And I asked, gosh dang it, Cameron, that I said, where's Chad? He goes, Chad, you talking about Chad from Leavenworth? And I said, yeah. He goes, I don't know. Give him a call. Heck, I think he just lives not too far away from here. And Chad was the other buck that I that was very similar to mine. He had shot his up in Leavenworth area, whatever county that is, out there in the country somewhere, and it went 255 and an eighth on Buckmasters, and mine went 255. His was 36 scoreable points, mainframe 12. Mine was a mainframe 10. But I mean, they were so similar, man. It was crazy. So I called Chad up, and that was the first time Chad and I met. He came to Cabela's with his rack and walked in the room, and Cameron is literally sitting there holding both of our racks side by side. And he goes, guys, I want you to know that this is the first time this has ever happened. This will probably never happen again. That we have over 500 inches of bone in this room right now between two racks. And I said, this was never probably ever happen again. And it was kind of a special moment that I got to be part of that, and all three of us were there, and getting to meet one another, hearing both of our stories, just our personal stories about it, and kind of trading some information back and forth, and a little tidbit information, what he did, what I did, and it was pretty fun. No, I ain't gonna lie, it was neat to see, and I congratulated him, and he congratulated me, and to say I wasn't a little upset that he got me beat by an eighth would be on Buckmasters would be a kind of a lie. I was a little upset about that. An eighth, he got me beat on that one. But we ended up scoring when he finally got the score done for Boone and Crocket and Pope and Young. I had him on that one, but still one hell of a buck. I'm not taking that away from him whatsoever. Thing's a monster. I think his ended up. I think his went 252. No, mine went 252. His went 251 and 5/8, I think, on Boone Crocket. So I had him beat just by a little bit there on that one, and his netted at like 241, I think, and mine netted at right at 245. That's when that was off of Cameron's score. I guess I need to explain that because Cameron did the first initial scores. And on his score sheet, it was 252 on the dot, on the gross. And when it netted out, it was 245 on the dot. And now, so it's got sent to Pope and Young to do the panel score. So like 5 guys come out and score it. And it actually went up 3 inches there. So that's why the scores I have said differently on the Boone and Crocket and the Pope and Young, because it's gone up. Pope and Young had to go up 3 inches, and Boone and Crocket had to go up like 2 7/8. So, but still all really close. I mean, it's all really depending on how you hold that tape measure, however you look at it. Cameron wasn't far off whatsoever on his measurements. I mean, it was like an eighth here and an eighth there, 2/8 here. That was really the only difference. So there was no significant mess up at all. He did a hell of a job.
70%. Yeah.
But it's I went down there to Arizona for Pope and Young's convention, and I got first place down there. Got to walk across the stage, and they introduced me, everything, whole 9 yards, and met a lot of people down there. That was awesome. That was a real treat to see. Being in a room full of the world's largest animals, the 6 biggest animals out of the whole entire world of each category, man. Like, just to see that, like, I started taking pictures, and I'm like, I stopped because it did him no justice. Like, there's no way to even describe the pictures. Like, it made him look so small. Like, this doesn't work. Like, you just have to be down there to see it. And it was in Glendale, Arizona. It was a really nice place. And time I got down there, man, it was like 101 degrees when I landed, and this was just like back in April. So I was like, whoa. But it wasn't too terribly bad, and it was just a honor to be down there and to meet everybody. It was something I never got to experience before, and I think everybody should get to experience that. And I hope everyone does. And I hope they get to experience something like this, and it's fun. Once in a lifetime, it was hard. I mean, I tell a shortened version of it, but I mean, behind the background here, I mean, the countless hours I spent on trying to pattern the buck, which way he was coming in. I mean, everything, the whole 9 yards, trying to find him again for that month and a half, to the point where And I was almost starting to give up. I was like, I'm just going to start hunting something else. He's gone. And he just showed up back at the right time. Uh, my ground blind, like the fence line on that right there, it was the fence line runs north and south. So my ground blind is facing straight east. Well, how am I going to prevent that from the sun coming up? Because I know he was coming in the mornings mainly.
Yeah.
And I don't want the sun coming right up in my face, seeing me. So I've downloaded an app to see the trajectory of the sun of each day. And so I pointed my corner of the ground blind where the sun was going to be coming and going. So that way wouldn't be blinding me and he couldn't see in my ground blind. And I grassed it in. Yeah, it took a little bit more time, and you couldn't tell. You couldn't tell there was anything there. Just looked like a whole bunch of tree branches. But I mean, that's what it takes. And between the 601 sense, outdoor sense, and my coded pile, and thinking outside the box on a few other things, and everything just lined up for me. I made it happen, so I can't complain. It's
Yeah.
like I said, man. I hope that someone and everyone can do this. Get a buck like this every year for themselves, man. It's awesome. That's the coolest thing ever. Just the people I've gotten to talk to, the people I've met. It just it's crazy. You meet a whole bunch of people you never know. Like I had some guy on Facebook message me, said he wants to put my buck in a calendar. He's a
Oh yeah,
wildlife.
we did. We got that.
Yeah, like is that real? Is this real? Is that a thing? But yeah, so like that was doing that, and then all the articles that come out, and that was a interesting kind of thing because I didn't know how that really worked, and I get to tell my story to the first editor, and then he rewrites it, and then gives it to his editor, then his editor edits again and takes out what doesn't think needs to be in there. So it's like, come on, man! Like at this point in time, it's so washed down, like you don't even get the story. Like it's just. But I got to do Buckmasters. I got to get I got to get the skull cap back from Boone and Crocket here next week, and I got to get it over to the taxidermist and get it mounted up pretty quick, like because Buckmasters wants me to get in one of their magazines. They want to take more pictures of me and my buck, so I got to get that rushed in and get it going.
I was going to say on your mineral, before we started, you kind of talked about what you do with that. So you tell us kind of what you do. We didn't really touch on that.
Oh yeah. So on the mineral deal, I started out about 3 years ago doing a lot of research on like why my bucks were, not my bucks, I guess, but why the bucks in the area were losing and stuff like that. And I come to the conclusion that I needed to put mineral because just harvesting mature bucks just wasn't doing it. Was not cutting it. And so I started messing around with some mineral, and I came to the point today where now I got my own business called Coated Mineral Attractant LLC, and I'll go out to landowners and hunters' properties and take soil samples, and then send them soil samples off, and then the test results when I come back. Whenever I get them back, it's usually about 2 weeks or so. I will make a custom tailored feed for that area. So if it's lacking in, magnesium, then I'll add, obviously something to supplement an additional more of magnesium or zinc or copper, whatever it is, whatever mineral is lacking or multiple minerals that are lacking, I will add to that feed and obviously hand deliver it to the landowner. That don't bother me none. And I never ship it to them because I just feel like it's a little bit more personal if I, hand deliver it to them and I go help them put it out and show them where to put it, what I do, what I suggest. They don't have to listen to me. It's their spot, their hunt spot. They can do whatever they want. They always just ask for my suggestions. Whether they listen, that's up to them. But I always try to put it probably within 30, 40 yards of like a water source because it helps if they can get to a water source soon after they digest that mineral, it will help them absorb that mineral more and digest it faster to go able to intake more mineral. And if there's a lot of companies out there that are starting to come out and say this, that, deer don't like mineral. That's just plain and simple. Deer don't like dusty substances. Anything dusty, they don't like. So how do you get deer to eat the mineral? Okay, well, you force feed it to them. Well, when you force feed it to them, I like to clear off a spot, 15-foot radius, 10-foot radius or whatever, down to pretty much bare dirt. And what I'll do is I'll put the mineral on down. I'll scatter it out, because it doesn't matter if it gets soaked into the ground or not. There's no such thing as wasted mineral. That mineral will get soaked into the ground, and that will become a mineral site for the rest of its life. So don't ever think you're wasting it. The deer will come back for literally ever. And so I'll clear off a spot, put the mineral down, and then what I'll do is I'll take a little bit of corn, and I just sprinkle the corn over the top of the mineral. Not a whole bunch, but just enough. Maybe there's a kernel like every 2-3 inches. They don't have to be precise or anything like that. Just a nice little cover so the deer go down there and eat that mineral. Because when their nose is wet, they go down there and eat that corn. That mineral gets on their nose, and then they have to lick their nose clean, eating that mineral every single time. Well, reason being is because the deer know their shut-off limit, or what they think needs to be their shut-off limit, because they're only going to take in their most bare minimum amount of mineral they need, and then they're done. So if you just put out mineral and you see like a doe come on by, and she goes on down and she takes 2 licks and she walks off, that's normal. That's all she needed out of that mineral. That's all she needs. Some people don't, which I get it. Mineral's not really talked about around, in Kansas. I don't know about Oklahoma, but there's a lot of people that just don't know like how to use mineral correctly. They think they put it out and it's just like corn or whatever. They think they're going to get bucks and does staying there forever and a half, but that's not the case. So you got to make sure they eat it. And that's the best way I found out to force feed them the mineral. So I do make my own custom made mineral here in the shop. I got a mixer and everything in the whole 9 yards. So DIY, I guess, barrel mixer I made myself, and it works pretty good. And I also got my first batch of coated, I had made out of Nebraska at a feed mill. And I was working with their 2 nutritionists for 6 months. Like, I had an idea what I wanted for my mineral content. Like, what's it going to be? Like, what percentage I wanted everything at. And I told the guys what I needed, what I wanted. And I said, I just don't know how to get to that point. Because like they had obviously all the abilities to get all the different types of individual minerals to make that happen. Like I don't have the license to do that just yet. And so we worked, and it took us 6 months and a lot of emails and a lot of phone calls. And we finally got it to exactly how I wanted the mineral to be. And it's not high in salt. It's a perfect ratio between copper and zinc, and perfect ratio between calcium and phosphorus, which is your calcium and phosphorus is a 2-to-1, and your zinc to copper is a 4-to-1 ratio. So that's kind of a little bit tidbit information when you're out there looking at for mineral. You need to have, if it's anything outside ratio of a 2-to-1 for your calcium and phosphorus, and 4-to-1 ratio out of your zinc and copper, anything outside those is wasted money, because those cost a lot of, usually the copper and the zinc are pretty high dollar to make. So you'll see a, fluctuation in price at the store for that. And then you do not do high salt. And that's what I take pride on that one, because I have like 21% salt content. So I don't want to waste no one's money and anything like that, man. Like, it's just, I truly want to help people out, and I try to make the best mineral I possibly can. And I truly believe that out there, and right now, if you go look, there's only like 2 or 3 companies out there that make actual decently good mineral that's in it for the right reasons. And everyone else is just completely trash. Like, Purina, they make a good one. I ain't gonna lie, but they're high dollar. Like, that's the thing I can do. Like I went to a new feed mill and they do wholesale stuff. That now I got my price driven way down. Like I reduced the cost of a bag by like 50%. It was a
Oh
lot.
wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like it was a lot. And I actually got it unscented now because what I'll do was what I had a sweet red apple on that first feed mill one, and it worked great. Like 95% of the places it was out at. And all my customers, for the most part, had really amazing luck with it. I mean, that increase in deer, man, it was insane. But there was a few bad apples out there. I knew what was going to happen, but I didn't know how I was going to handle that. And how I handled it was I just went with unscented mineral. It was cheaper this way, anyways, to get unscented mineral. And then my customer, whatever they want, I have different flavors like grape, berry, apple, green apple, persimmon, vanilla, cherry, you name it. I can get the flavor. I can get all orange, banana, chocolate, you name it. I can get it. I have it. And so that was the one thing. Like if your deer don't like, one type of scent and they don't come up to it, don't freak out. Come on back. We'll get it figured out. We'll try out a different scent for you. And that's how I make my customers happy. I'll make sure it works for them. So
yeah,
that's, well, not only that, I have a lot of probiotics in it because one of the big things to me was I need to tackle the does. If you don't have a healthy doe, you're not going to toss a healthy fawn, just like cattle.
Yep.
And a lot of people see it the same way, you got to have a healthy heifer to have a healthy calf.
Yep.
Or cow, I guess I should say healthy cow. Yeah. Right.
Yep.
Cows.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I was kind of saying it. I get those mixed up all the time. But, anyways, so I took that and I'm like, why don't we have probiotics in it? So I stacked it full of vitamins and probiotics for the does. So they get like super milk. Because if you see a fawn within like what I say, probably pretty much when they shed their velvet. So like when bucks start shedding their velvet, that was like a good indicator that you should not see a fawn eat anything out there in the wild besides its mom's milk within those first months. If that fawn is eating grass, leaves, or anything like that, then you have an unhealthy doe. She's not getting the correct mineral somewhere, whatever that mineral is she's lacking. So that is a telltale sign you have a mineral deficiency somewhere for that deer herd. It's just like, okay, well, what do I need to do for that mom to have healthy milk? All right, well, let's pour some minerals and make sure she has a healthy baby.
Yep.
I mean, the questions I get asked a lot is, how do I get big bucks? I want big bucks, Okay, well,
Got to start first.
you're not going to get big bucks the first year. That's not how that works. Because the majority of people, by the time they start putting mineral out, they already shed their velvet. Like they stop growing. They stop growing, guys. You got to start doing this in like January.
Yeah.
Good time to start. Just start the new year off. Start getting some mineral out. You don't got to do a whole bunch. It's easy. It's do your part and just start seeing bigger bucks. But some of them statistics out there are insane on what that mineral does for them, though. So, like, I want to say, like, the first fawns that come off the minerals, like if you feed for a full year, the first set of fawns that hit the ground after you got done feeding the mineral, there will be like 56 or 57% decrease in spikes. So they'll have like forks, or at 6 points. So you're reducing your spikes by 56, 57% off of the first year of mineral. I mean, to me, that's a pretty damn good start.
Yeah, and it's a lot cheaper than running replacement feeds.
Yeah. Yeah. So like you can pour out supplements and you can pour out mineral, and some people have like mineral supplement. That's what I have, like an attractive mineral supplement, because the supplements become like your vitamins and your probiotics and stuff like that. So mine is just like all in one little deal. And I was getting 25-pound bags and now I'm getting 50-pound bags at a significantly reduced cost. Like it's not bad. It's like 20, 21 bucks for the customer or something like that to buy a 50-pound bag, and a 50-pound bag can last you like a month or two for sure.
Wow.
Like I say a bag could probably last you a month on 2 spots. I'd say put 25 pounds each out of 2 spots, and that's 20 bucks. So that's like, it's not expensive.
Yeah.
It's not expensive at all. And people think it is, like, no, it's not. It's you guys can do this. It's not like stuff. It's you guys have 20 bucks for leftover for the most part, or don't buy a can of chew or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's I know people are like, oh, I ain't gonna do that. I'm like, you don't have to do that, man. Just fork up 20 bucks.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not hard. The response that the deer that you're gonna get and the increase in horn size is gonna be well worth the time that you're gonna put into it.
Yeah.
Because if you have your first set of bucks, man, like the first set of bucks, so your first fawns, and then you go up 5 years. So now they hit maturity. You went from your set of bucks that was on mineral for all 5 years. After that 5 years, they're going to have like a 17% increase in horn size on the Boone and Crocket scale. So let's compare that to a buck that has not been on mineral for 5 years, right?
Yeah.
Say they were born at the same time. One was on mineral, one was not on mineral for 5 years. If you have a 150-inch buck right now and he's on no mineral, that's all he's going to be. But if he has the potential, like the genetics and everything, he just needs a boost. And say that same buck went on mineral for the next 5 years when he hit the ground. Now he went from a 150-inch buck to like 171 or 172-inch buck. And, that's what we're talking about here. That's the amount of inches that we're adding.
Yeah.
Like granted, there is genetics involved in that. I understand that. But if you can help after 5 years from shooting, oh man, I bummed out, I only shoot 150 inches. Okay, well, stop complaining about it. Spend 20 bucks a month, man. And in 5 years, for sure, you can have, probably more than likely 170s running around on your property.
Yeah.
Like, come on, let's be proactive about it.
Yeah.
I want to shoot big bucks. That's what I like doing. Granted, I like popping freezer queens. I got my deep freeze is full. That's part of it. I got it. That's how I eat, man. But I'm still after the horns and all.
Yeah. I think you have to have a good mixture.
Yeah, you got to. I mean, got to remember, you can go out. I can go out and shoot a doe anytime I feel like I can, and I gotta do that. We get like 3 tags in Kansas, so every once in a while, I was just like, oh, I got to remember why I'm not killing a buck, but I got to at least figure out how to do it. Got to keep me sharp.
Yeah.
So bring out the bow and shoot a doe, man. I mean, confidence booster. Like I still got this. Okay.
Yeah.
Like I can do it. It's not that big of a deal. Like I got this. Yeah, man. I take a lot of pride and joy in the things that I do, and in the past few years, things have been going up for me with Coated, like I got going on there. That's a big deal. And then my 601 outdoor scents, that's a major deal. That got significantly blew up after I shot this buck, but we do he makes a lot of sense. And I will have to say, I have experimented with them to figure out what scents works best for me. I really wasn't for sure if the products were going to work at first, just because I do berry and I was like, man, I'll try it. I got to figure it out, whatever. And to say I was surprised, yeah, I was surprised.
Yeah.
Be good products. It's just really good.
Right.
It's like that black tie fair, man, that was the business. I have good luck with it every year. Them bucks kept on hitting. I got trail camera footage every single day. After it took them a little while to get back in there because we had obviously the dogs and stuff and they were crawling around, and it took them about 2 weeks to get back in there. But once they got back in there, I had a different buck come in every day for a week, and then them 7 bucks came back following and hitting that same exact scrape. and eating the dirt where I had the pile at. So it's, when it works, it works.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not talking about dinks either. That's the thing. Like these were good bucks coming in every day, like clockwork. Still hitting it with nothing, not me being out there, not even freshening it up.
Wow.
And I think most of our like the black tie fair, the scent gland stuff, like that one is synthetic smell, and it lasts like 30 some days after you spray it. So it's a long lasting, potent. You don't want to get on your hands, put a chew in. That's yeah, yeah. Don't want to do that. We got 100% doe estrus. We get it out of Kentucky from when they go into that stage, and we get it like in the first month of October, like first weeks of October, I think we can get it. It's awesome. Like I can get anything you want. Like it's real doe pee, real buck pee. I can get that, and it's stinky. Like you got to keep that stuff refrigerated though, so we have to ship it differently, and we got to keep it like on dry ice when we ship it, and then when I get it, it immediately goes into the fridge. But like it would have a shelf life of maybe 7 days if you didn't put it in the refrigerator, and I think the refrigerator can last probably like 30 days since it's actual real pee. But yeah, but once you use it, you'll see it. It's like, oh, I pay money for that. That's why. Yeah, you get it. You get it. It's the real deal. But no, we got a lot of products like that, and I like making my customers happy, and I'll make everything right for them.
Right.
Happy customer, they keep coming back.
Yep.
No, man, it's been a ride, and I'm getting ready to go down to Springfield here next week. I think Thursday we start the convention for Boone and Crocket, and that's going to be a treat being out there. I'm kind of a little worried though. I ain't gonna lie. I don't know what place I got on that one, like, because like they didn't call Chad up. I was talking about Chad's buck, and he was pretty close with my score. He went 241, and I went 245.7. 247 I went. He went 241. And I'm like, he didn't get called in down there. Like, okay, like that's pretty neck. Like, am I in last place down there with a 247? Like, what am I going against? I have no idea. Like, it's nerve wracking.
Yeah.
It's not like it's like a competition like one really can control either. So it's like you just go down there and you just have to take that. Like if you get last, oh well, still shot at 247.
Yeah.
Like the crazy thing is like they take the six biggest or five biggest out of each category over 3 years. Boone and Crockett does. So I was the top 6 or top 5 biggest bucks out of Boone and Crockett's scale in 3 years. Wow. And this last year, and in the 2024 season, Cameron confirmed it for me back January 1st that I had shot the biggest buck in North America with a bow in 2024. So that was a pretty, actually, obviously a monster, huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
To have that, I guess, that title that I did something like that. Like that, I'd never thought like me, would be able to do something like this. It's just crazy.
All right, Dallas, thank you for joining me today. That's telling your story and getting to meet you. I'm ready to meet you in person. But definitely thank you for your story and your time today.
Yeah, man. Like I said, man, it's been awesome. It's been a good time and a pleasure. Glad to be able to tell my story to your listeners, and just I hope they take something out of this. Like just learning from like me turning my ground blind, using that app where the sun comes on. Like that's a little bit different information that some people don't do or think about. Like that's a thing.
Yeah.
You don't want the sun shining right into your ground blind every morning when you're sitting in there because they can see you. It's a huge game changer, I'd say. I hope they take something out of it. I hope they don't give up on like I never gave up. It was just crazy. Just relentless at it. Just the grind never stopped. The work never stopped on it. And just heart and dedication right there.
Yep.
But I appreciate you having me on here. It's been awesome.
Yeah. Anytime, buddy.